Mangan. Hi, Regina.
Hi, Alec. Great
Yeah,
to see you and chat to you again.
yes, and with all that's been going on in the last year, it's fantastic that survive and thrive, I think, has been part of the order of the day, and you're certainly doing that.
We are very grateful to be doing so well in the midst of a global pandemic. So very fortunate, yes.
I know you were growing your business quite substantially before COVID, and of course, then suddenly that arrives. And for a business like your own, estate agency, that must have presented certain challenges. Maybe you might tell me some of those.
Yeah, when COVID struck, it was pretty scary. It was a time of panic and shock, I think, when it first happened. That's how I felt. And we had an emergency management meeting. I always remember that on the Saturday morning after Leo's announcement from the US. So it was scary times. We manage a significant portfolio of rental properties. So straight away, it was like, oh my God, the tenants aren't going to be able to pay their rent. Landlords won't be able to pay their mortgage. It was kind of this Armageddon feeling,
Right.
which thanks be to God, none of that materialized. But we very much went into planning mode, and we hadn't used Zoom before, but we adopted that very quickly. Met face to face online and started looking at what do we need to do to pivot. And I always think it's so important to be looking to the future. And fortunately, that's always been my mantra. And we've adopted 14 pieces of technology before COVID. So we were very, very well set up. So when viewings were frozen and we weren't allowed to show properties,
Sure.
at the start of the first lockdown, people weren't, like the sales market actually froze, unlike the second lockdown. But the rental market still had to move. People needed somewhere to rent. So when we weren't allowed go into properties or leave our homes, we got the cleaners to do the videos.
All right.
And that worked incredibly well. I remember Maria saying to me, my colleague and fellow director, Regina, some of those videos aren't great. I said, Maria, done beats perfection. It's done. If we're waiting for perfection, we won't get the videos up. So that worked really well. And we were able to rent the properties remotely. And in the first 6 weeks, we actually rented over 60 properties remotely without meeting anybody, using technology for contract signing, for reference checking, for videos, for just all, and the payment Splink. So we had the setup. So, and then like we run a fairly big maintenance department for our tenancies.
Sure.
And Caroline was able to work from home because we had the technology, which is a self-service platform. Tenants can report the problems in 40 different languages. So that was seamless.
Oh.
And then we were able to communicate. We actually improved our communication. We started communicating with our landlords and tenants more, and we got great feedback from our landlords. So we wanted to kind of reassure them that everything is okay and this is what we're doing. So there was a lot of take homes from the whole thing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, I suppose there's a lesson there for a lot of businesses who are a bit reticent about investing in technology. That, I mean, you were fortunate enough to have the foresight to do that and then were able to reap the benefits. A lot of people were playing catch up.
I sometimes think that you don't know what you don't know. So it's, and I remember Maria saying to me again, Regina, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by you don't know what you don't know? So that's why I think it's so important to explore, get networks, be part of a network in your profession, have a mentor. So like 4 years ago, we went to Prop Tech in London, and that was the transformation moment for our business, where I met a guy called Christian who owns a company called Based in London. I invited myself back to see his business. And during that day, I saw the future for my business. I saw how I wanted things to be. And so we spent 4 years implementing the technology that Christian recommended. And I suppose I had a better understanding after meeting him as to how we should serve our customers better, and that it should be about self-service platforms where clients can access information and data at a time that suits them.
I know you're very much a people person, so it must have jarred slightly with you in terms of I'm having to work remotely. So I suppose this technology sort of enhanced the offering you were able to make in the absence of the personal contact.
Yeah, look, I like to meet people, eyeball them, have a cup of coffee. I'm a sociable person. I did find the first lockdown particularly hard, but I was very mindful of how important my mental health was. So I used to go running every single morning, and then I went for a walk in the afternoon with my son because obviously the kids weren't in school at the time. So that helped me stay positive and able to deal with things. We brought in team meetings every morning on Zoom, which we've adopted over the last 12 months, which we'd never done before. We were a bit lax on our team meetings every
Sure.
2 weeks, whereas now we have a meeting every single morning on Zoom. But there isn't nothing like meeting people. However, Zoom and technology gives you an opportunity to do both. And it isn't always feasible to meet people face to face, especially like dealing with people overseas. We sold a property during COVID to a gentleman in the States,
Wow.
which was fabulous. And we were able to chat on Zoom, and we did our video marketing, we did our Facebook Lives. We really, really drove our social media very much so during COVID. And I read something years ago that never left me. It was during World War II, Kellogg's decided to up their spending on their marketing.
Right.
And their competitors, their competitors in the cereal space actually cut back.
Yeah.
So they went full throttle on their marketing. So when, as a result, when the war ended, they had the market share. And I felt, well, look, during COVID, when everyone is being quiet, we need to ramp it up. And we
Sure.
did ramp up our social media. And that's really helped us win new listings. And for us then, it's about being an attraction agent, that people are attracted to us.
Yeah, and I mean, this is about being, I suppose, to use a modern word, resilient. And so many companies, as you said, were caught in the headlights. But I mean, after the glare has worn off very quickly, you're able to respond to what's happening out there in a proactive way.
Yeah, well, look, there's too much to lose, too much at stake, you know. I'd like to think I'm a resilient person anyway. I've been in business 24 years since May this year. So you don't get to survive 24 years in business if you're not resilient. It's something I learned from my mother, you know, and I think minding your mental health, I go back to that again, and how for me, exercise played a key component into keeping resilient and strong, you know, and have a plan. You know, I to mind my people, like they're all, you know, reliant on their salary, their livelihoods, mortgages, and then all my clients, you know, so to mind people, like I couldn't afford to be complacent. It's not my nature anyway, to be frank.
It was interesting, though, how you were able to adopt the technology to suit your particular needs. But I think you need to invest in the time and understand what technology brings, but also its limitations as well.
I think you have to be looking ahead all the time, looking around the corner, what's coming, what's happening, what's the next thing. None of us can afford to stand still, no matter what industry we're in. And I go back to the point, we don't know what we don't know. And that's why it's important, no matter what space you're in, to go and see what other people are doing. We don't have to create something that's never been done before. We can just emulate what we see in other markets. Like for me, I was inspired by the Australian and UK real estate market. That's where I saw stuff that I haven't seen in Ireland. And so we were in front of videos. We've been doing videos for 2 years before COVID. And for some people, when COVID happened, they had to start doing video.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that they won't be brilliant.
Paid for this, I'd be laughing. Regina, we're just talking about the importance of technology in business. I know you were well ahead of the curve. Maybe tell our audience a bit about that in terms of, say, video, for example.
Well, we've been doing video for the last few years because I've been looking at the UK and Australian real estate market, and video is a really important tool that the agents use. And so I insisted that this was the road we went. And my colleague was less comfortable with the idea, but she eventually saw the way. And she's fantastic at it now. But I think, like anything, the more you do, the better you get. And for anyone who's listening or watching, my advice is embrace video. Don't worry if you're having a bad hair day. Don't worry if you've made a mistake. Like, to be authentic is the most important thing, because it's a bit like, you know, if we see a celebrity on TV and next thing you read that they got married, you nearly kind of feel like you know them, or they died, or they did something, or got an award. It's actually the very same with video. So when we go to properties and we meet people, they feel like they know us already, you know, and we have built up a tribe before COVID, and that tribe is growing. So that's like the people who follow our videos. And I think what I also learned was that it's not about selling all the time. You can't be selling, you need to be giving value.
Sure.
So we do a lot of videos on giving tips, like we do a live at 5 every day now, Monday to Friday, and we try and give tips. So last night Maria did one, and that was about health and safety considerations for landlords, what they need to do when they're renting out their property. So anybody can watch that. They don't have to be a client of ours, but we're giving valuable content, and people are getting to know us and our brand. And so the goal is that we're an attraction agent. We're here to help. And if people need a service, that hopefully will be first in mind. And that's been really helpful to us.
And where can people find more details about that?
So you can just go to YouTube and look up Liberty Blue Estate Agents on YouTube. We have a channel, subscribe. We'd love to see you subscribe, and you can see a whole suite of videos that we've been doing over the last 3 years. You can like our Facebook page, Liberty Blue Estate Agents, follow us on Twitter, or follow me on LinkedIn, Regina Mangan. All right. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere, that's it. But I mean, if we're talking about communications, there is a changing marketplace now that people will have adapted to seeing places on video as opposed to having to visit them in person, which actually probably has a benefit for you as well in getting rid of the tire kickers who would normally just turn up to have a look.
Well, if you asked me 2 years ago, would you sell a €500,000 home virtually without somebody going to see it? I'd say no, that's never going to happen, Alec. That is not true. Like, we have sold properties to people. They've paid a deposit, they've given proof of funds, they've viewed it online, they've seen the 360 tour, and they've committed. And then you were allowed within the guidelines to go and view it. So it's been incredibly efficient. So during second lockdown, we've been selling like mad, selling to people who didn't even physically go into the properties.
Wow.
So it's been really strong. We've learned a lot from it, but going back to my point earlier, we need to always be looking at what's coming next, because if you're not ahead and something happens, then you won't be ready. And there's so much available online in terms of resources.
I suppose I just want to tap into something else. I know you're very much a person involved in the local community. And while we talk about networking, which sometimes has a sort of cold ring to it, I know that networking is a much warmer thing when it's invested in your own community, which is about helping as well. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing there.
Well, I've always been passionate about helping my community, and my business is doing well and I'm doing well. So I feel very grateful and privileged. Now, I work hard for everything, but it's very important to help people who need help. So there's a couple of charities I'm very passionate about, like Pieta House, who support people with mental health illnesses. I'm passionate about the charity for the homeless, Helping Hands. I did a sleep out last year with Rotary. I'm a member of Rotary. Rotary are great. There's a really great crew of people, whom many are retired and others who aren't. And we just, before COVID, used to have great crack, meet every Monday, and you know, we do fundraising events, and it's fun and it's nice, and we're helping people. And then we do our annual coffee morning on every Christmas for the St. Vincent de Paul. And this year was actually the best one we ever had, because with COVID restrictions, we couldn't have in the office. So we had it in the Apple Market, where there's an outdoor roof. It's really cool. And we had a pianist on a grand piano, and people on the street were able to go by, and it was really feel good. Then I'm a director with the Dungarvan and West Waterford Chamber. So like, I think sometimes to give and not to expect anything back has always worked for me. I'm not like looking for something back, and if something comes back, then that's brilliant.
But that is the true art of networking. Always give, not to be looking. The opportunities will come sometimes, but listen, you're not going out with the expectation of getting something in return. You do it with an open heart.
Yeah, but look, they call it giver's gain, don't they? If you help somebody, you get a really nice feeling after it. Somebody who needs help. I don't mean helping someone who's using you. I mean someone who's genuinely in need of help.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Listen, if we just move back to another part of the business side of it, I mean, you had nice offices down in Dungarvan. Tell us about how you had to manage that, because I mean, again, they were going to be sitting idle for a long time.
Well, we've our office, our main office is in Waterford City, and I have an office in Onrine where I live. It was a really strange time, because we always had two people in the office, one working upstairs and one working downstairs, because we had to keep the rental portfolio going and look after our tenants for emergency. So there was the atmosphere wasn't great. It was difficult because they were on their own. And now that we are allowed back into the office, it's much nicer. So I don't think that most people, and I think that's what the research is now throwing up, will want to work from home fully. I think that whole hybrid thing, where a bit of both is really the ideal scenario. So I work from home half the week, and I work in the office the other half, but not really in the office, in my car. This is my office. I'm here now in my office because I'm meeting people at their houses, I'm doing appraisals, I'm doing viewings. So there are more people back in our office now, and it's great. It is great. Yeah.
It is a hybrid situation. It is a hybrid situation that you have to adapt to. And again, I think people need to be open-minded in what the needs of their employees are.
Yeah, look, it's all about the outcome. And I would say productivity is much higher with the dual working scenario, because sometimes in the office it can be very distracting. There can be loads of interruptions and loads of people asking you questions. And so I'm parked here in my car, so I have a sensor, so you can hear it beeping when people walk past, so sorry about that. Yeah, look, we're people, so we like to see each other, but then we've got a lot of stuff to do behind the scenes in terms of administration. So the dual work approach is working out really efficiently for us. Like, even in terms of our marketing, we've produced marketing collateral that we wouldn't have done in the office. We're getting way more stuff done. That means we can sell homes better and faster for our clients.
No, that's fantastic. And let's talk a bit about collaboration, because, nobody is an island, as they say. So tell us about what was happening and what sort of relationships and collaborations did you get involved?
Well, I've always been passionate about mentoring, and, I've had so many mentors over the years, and I was fortunate enough to meet you, Alec, at the start of the first lockdown. And you, like, instantly we clicked on the phone. And I think anyone who's looking for a mentor, you do need a bit of chemistry. You do need to be able to click with your mentor. And I guess what I would say is, after speaking to you, I just trusted you. And so then we went down the road of the mentoring, which was through the local enterprise office, what was it called? Was it the Restart Grant or
Business continuity?
Business continuity. And I availed of a number of grants, business continuity, and then we got digital marketing grant where we upgraded our website, and then we did a social media course with a company called Marla in Waterford. So going back to you,
You're only
One
making
of
me
the,
blush now,
so one
Regina.
of, no, but this is really important and I want to share this. Like, my colleague Maria was like, we can't charge this price. We won't get it. People won't pay it. But it was really about maybe us not having the confidence to explain why people would get the value for our fee, but also in the packaging, how would we package that fee? So working with you, you helped us go through it, the whole process, and the end result is that we've increased our fees. And we really have worked out that we're not for everyone. And so we fired 6 clients, but not in a bad way. It's been a really amicable departure. But what we realized is those contracts were no longer for us. They were in the space of managing blocks. And when we did an analysis of the profitability of that side of the segment of the business, it wasn't profitable.
No.
Nor was it space that made us happy. So our business is renting and our business is selling and providing maintenance service. And I'm really happy with that. And you really helped me figure that out. We increased our fees. And then in terms of the process and then understanding what our USPs are. And what I mean by that is, well, why are we different? And they're really tangible reasons that we can now give our clients, and we can speak with conviction and confidence as to why we're different. And that is the same for any business. We don't want to be the same as,
Yeah, I think every business has the opportunity to be unique in its own space. And if you find yourself being challenged on price, then people can't see what that uniqueness is.
Yeah, look, as I say, well, are you looking for the cheapest agent or are you looking for the best sales price?
Yeah.
And it's to I suppose have that dialogue when you are, sorry, I dropped my phone there, to have that dialogue where you can deal with objections. And when you work with a mentor, you can actually do a bit of role playing like we did. We often role played different scenarios and that helps you. It doesn't mean it's not authentic. It means you can deal with objections and be confident. And then if somebody's looking for the cheapest agent, well, then that's just not us. We're not for everyone.
Yeah, I think people make the mistake of trying to be all things to all people, and that's where they start losing out. Whereas I think what you have identified now is you have a niche client sector that understands what you offer and the value you bring.
Yeah, I also believe, right, that selling a home is a really big deal. You're helping people move forward in their lives, whatever stage they're at. And sometimes, that sale is a huge life-changing event for people. And for us, we concentrate on the service we give, like it's more or less 24/7 reply. It's concierge service. Now, not every business that's not their offering. I'm not saying it should be, but that is our offering. And people will need to pay a little bit more for that. But then you have to say more initially, are they paying more? If we can generate an extra 5,000 to 10,000 end result because we're prepared to work extra hard, or we've been fine-tuning our negotiation skills over lockdown. And when you can bring a buyer up by 30,000, that requires significant negotiation skills. And if a seller is worried about paying you an extra €350 to end up with an extra 30,000, well, maybe they need to rethink.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer really, but it's only when you do the figures that you realize the small amounts. So tell us, what's the future for Liberty Blue now that as we're coming hopefully out of lockdown? Where do you see the real gain for you and the business down there?
Well, it's exciting times. We're selling our first new homes development in September. It's called Summerfields in Waterford. And it's a beautiful new homes development. And it's our first new homes development. And I think lockdown gave us the opportunity to stand out in front of our client. So that was a really big win for us. So we're excited about that. We are recruiting new people and we're excited about more people in the business having a face and a voice. So on social media, typically you just see myself and Maria. We're going to have 2 to 3 more people joining the screen. I'm excited about bringing them on. And just sharpening the saw overall, and selling and renting houses, and bringing some form of delight to our clients. And you know what? Loving what we do. We're not for everyone. So we want to work with people who appreciate what we do and have a bit of fun along the way.
Well, I mean, it certainly comes through in you, you know, and I think that a lot of people make the mistake of not enjoying what they do. They suffer their business, and it's not a way to start a day.
No, it isn't. And, you know, for anyone who's listening here, you know, and they've got some clients who are unreasonable, who are overly demanding, who, you know, when they analyze, you know, how that brings down their energy, sometimes they're just not the right fit. Because if you can get on with your clients now, sometimes we all drop the ball and everything doesn't always run 100%, but you got to know when you're wrong or when you've screwed up. But, you know, you want to enjoy what you're doing, because I spend probably 80% of my time working. So I don't want to be a slave to it.
Yeah. And certainly I remember talking with you, there were certain aspects of the business that sort of had you in that space.
Yeah.
So you're smiling more now that you're out of it.
Yeah, look, there were things that were bugbears for me, but a lot of that went back to block management, a piece of business that wasn't profitable for us, and it wasn't a space that we enjoyed anymore. You know, things changed. We had a huge client that basically, when the building was sold, and when we lost the economy of scale, the value of that side of the business just wasn't there.
It's amazing, because there was an exercise you did, I think, and around those sort of things was, and a lot of businesses could do it, is actually work out, are you making money on some of these projects? And a lot of people discover, if they do the exercise, that they're not.
Yeah, sometimes you can be a busy fool. And if you're a busy fool, then it's stopping you from doing something else, you know? So a really interesting thing is to look up what the word decision means. A lot of people don't know what the word decision means. It actually means to cut off, decision. So when you say yes to something, you're actually saying no to something else, because there's only so many hours in the day, and it's to focus on the higher value stuff, the stuff you should be doing, and the stuff that you get satisfaction out of, and the stuff that you're good at.
Yes, and it means then you can focus on the real people that will benefit from what you're offering, as opposed to those who don't appreciate it at all, but are the time suckers.
And one last thing I'd like to share, right? One of the things that has been a big game changer for us, I can't believe that we're 24 years in business and we didn't have this before COVID, an operations manual, right? We have an operations manual, which is like the whole 360 of the business. It's online. There are links to tutorials. It probably took maybe 3 months to write.
Right.
Now, not all day, every day, you know, because obviously you're doing other stuff as well. And we shared different elements of the manual around the team. And so when Angela started yesterday, we were able to, the first thing to do was give her training manual. And she was blown away. She said she'd never seen anything like it. So it means you can do the on-the-job training, and then your recruits can click in on the tutorials, the links. And so our training plans are way better. And when you recruit people, you give them the best chance to be brilliant at their job, because at the end of the day, we're only as good as our weakest link, you know?
Listen, I think that's a fantastic piece of advice to finish the show on.